a normal life. A good life. I had amazing friends and lived in an awesome house with a pool. I always thought that I lived with the greatest parents in the world, but apparently they were hiding some pretty dark secrets. By dark secrets, I wish I was talking about hidden siblings or credit card debts. In reality, my loving parents were actually my kidnappers, who hid me away from my real mom for years. It's a little more complicated than that, though. Before I start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, your favorite celebrity will be kidnapped. Maybe if someone subscribed to this channel a little sooner, I wouldn't be in this mess. I don't remember too much from when I was really young, except that we moved around a lot. My first memories started when I was around 3 or 4, and I just remember moving to a new house every few months. Our moves were always sudden, and sometimes I would have to leave right in the middle of something. I always thought it was perfectly normal, but in retrospect, it was all a little weird. I remember this one time in particular very vividly. I was going to a birthday party of my friend from the park. I can't even remember her name, but I can remember that it was the first birthday party I was ever attending. There was cake and balloons, and they even hired a face painter. I was in the middle of getting my face painted like a tiger when my parents just picked me up and told me we had to go. I was crying so much, but they just picked me up and left the party without so much as saying goodbye to the birthday girl. I cried so hard the paint got all over my clothes. Luckily, the painter only managed to get half of my face. My dad always said he had to move for work, and I didn't really question it further. Still, I missed out on a lot of things kids got to do. I didn't go to school for a really long time, and I never really made any friends in my childhood. I got so used to moving every few months that I didn't even unpack my room. I wasn't bitter about it, though. If my parents said we had to move for work, I just believed them. As I got older, these random moves got much less frequent. After we managed to stay in the same place for a whole year, my parents decided to buy a house. It was my dream come true. It was huge. 4-bedroom, a pool, a trampoline, and it was in a neighborhood full of kids my age. I was just about to start middle school when we got to the house, so it was the perfect time for me to really make some friends. Among all the friends I made, my best friend was Susan. Susan and I loved watching YouTube videos together. We loved watching true dramas like on My Story Animated, among others. We came across one video that seemed to change our lives forever. Our favorite channel had posted a video about a girl who went missing over 10 years ago. One day, a 2-year-old had been playing out in the garden when she just completely vanished. The story was so eerie and a little sad. A woman had just lost her husband in an accident. Her daughter was all she had, and then she vanished from her life without a trace when she was playing in her own backyard. Officers made this a cold case years ago, but the mom was still looking. She made billboards and traveled around, never giving up hope. The video transitioned to a slide showing a photo of the girl when she was taken, and a Photoshop picture of what she would look like now. Susan immediately paused the video. "Carly, that looks just like you." "Yeah, what are the odds?" I tried to laugh off. "Pretty slim," she said. She was right. That girl in that photo was undeniably me. We spent the next few hours looking up more about this story. It turned out she disappeared on my birthday, was the same age as me, and even had the same birthmark. When it was time to eat dinner with my parents, Susan and I were uncharacteristically quiet. "So, girls, what have you been up to all day?" my mom asked. "Nothing." She asked why we were acting so weird, and we just told her we were fine. I asked her if I could spend the night at Susan so we could go study. Susan and I continued to research the topic at our house and found only more incriminating evidence. We didn't know what we should do, so we asked Susan's older brother for some advice. At first, he thought we were being crazy. But when he read into it, he said we needed to do something. He was going to make a call to some of his cop friends and get more information on this missing girl. Months had passed, and I started forgetting all about the searches. Maybe it was because I was getting so invested in high school, but part of me just didn't want it to be true. Ignoring it was easier than anything else. Susan and I were eating lunch when a teacher came and approached me. She told me my parents were here to pick me up for a doctor's appointment. I didn't know I had a doctor's appointment that day. When I arrived at my parents' car, it was clear something was wrong. When I got into the car, I noticed there were blankets covering loads of stuff in the back seat. There were bags packed, and both of my parents were visibly distraught. "This is an awful lot of stuff to go to the doctor's," I said. My parents looked at me and said that my father's brother had gotten into a very bad accident, and they didn't want me to find out through the teacher. We were going to drive a few states away and take care of him for the time being. I didn't even know I had an uncle. There was obviously something fishy about this. They told me to text Susan to let her know I'd be staying with my uncle for a bit. After I did that, my father took my phone out of my hand. I asked why he was taking it, and he simply said that my uncle's pacemaker was disrupted by certain electrical signals. This meant I couldn't use Wi-Fi the entire time we stayed with his family. This didn't seem right to me, but when I tried to argue that hospitals had Wi-Fi, they just shut me down and told me to behave. Because they were so upset, I just let it go. I assumed we would only be gone for a couple of days, but days dragged on into weeks. Even if I had my phone on me, I doubt it would work. We were in the middle of nowhere. My uncle was virtually a zombie. He stayed in bed, surrounded by lots of beeping machines. My parents left for work religiously every day, and I was forced to wander this cabin alone most of the days. It seemed weird how my parents would just remove me from school and cut off my contact with everyone. When they were gone, I searched the house for my cell phone or a computer. I couldn't even find a landline. I was a prisoner here. One day, when I was exploring, I found a secret door under one of the carpets in my parents' bedroom. I found a secret room, and my heart sank when I saw what was inside. There was a landline, a PC, a whole bunch of cell phones, and a full box of old ID cards.
Where will you go first? Will it be familiar streets? Or perhaps unknown roads? Wherever you may go, Lexus will welcome you back with exceptional offers. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
That wasn't the weirdest part, though. All over the room, there were newspaper clippings about the very kidnapping that Susan and I had seen. The most recent date of the paper was only from a couple weeks ago. The title read, "New tips on a missing persons case brings us one step closer to bringing a missing girl home." The photo on the page was not photoshopped. It was me. Underneath me was a picture of my parents. Apparently, the couple that I had known as my mom and dad were actually my kidnappers. Before I got a chance to read more, I heard a bang. "You weren't supposed to see that," a voice said behind me. Before I could see who it was, everything went black. I don't know how long I was out for, but I woke up in my bedroom. I tried to leave, but I was locked inside. I cried and banged while my kidnappers showed up at the door. I screamed at them for lying to me my whole life. All the moving and mystery, it suddenly made sense. They didn't just steal me from my mother, they stole my childhood from me. They seemed genuinely hurt by my harsh words. They tried to tell me how they weren't able to have a baby. They were actually very close friends of my birth parents. Right before my birth father had his accident, he told them that he was afraid of my birth mother. He claimed that she had been acting very suspicious and he feared for his life. She was very mentally ill and he didn't think it was safe for me to stay with her. The day where he was supposedly going to give her divorce papers and take me away, he mysteriously had an accident. "We didn't have any other choice," the woman I thought was my mother said. "We promised your birth father that we would protect you at any costs." She was a very dangerous woman who had a lot of connections with law enforcement. Her whole family was made up of cops. They would never go against her. My parents feared a court case may push her to hurt me, so they kidnapped me and gave up their lives to try to give me the closest thing to a childhood I could have. They promised to be more open with me, but some things they kept from me to keep me safe. Now, it all made so much sense. I started to cry and promised to do as they said so we could keep our little family together. After a few months, I got used to our quiet life together. I cut my hair and used a new name, but I still tried to preserve parts of the old me. Even though my parents specifically asked me not to talk to Susan, I followed her very popular Instagram and YouTube channels. She had so many followers and her content was amazing. One day, I reached out to her. I used a pen name, but I couldn't just not talk to my best friend. To her, I was just a stranger, telling her how awesome her latest video was. At first, I thought Susan was going to ignore me, but
we have the FPL Energy Analyzer. The tool will let you monitor your usage performance. We're here to help.
Eventually, we started talking like the good old days. After a while, I got comfortable and let my guard down. I forgot that I wasn't supposed to be talking to her. In her latest post about a soda drinking challenge, I asked if she remembered the time I spilled grape soda all over my white dress in the cafeteria. Immediately, she wrote back, OMG, I knew it was you! Where are you? It's been years! I can get the cops to you! I panicked, realizing my mistake. I was so sad to lose Susan a second time, but I deleted all of my social media accounts. I didn't bring it up to my parents, fearing that I would lose my internet privileges again. That was not the smartest decision. A few days later, cops were banging on my cabin door. Who knew reminiscing about my cafeteria mishap would have a SWAT team at my door? Susan had called the authorities and they were able to track my IP address. My parents were put in handcuffs and my birth mother had rushed up and hugged me. I was hysterical. Everyone kept asking if I was hurt, but I was just upset they were dragging my parents away. My birth mother was hugging me and saying how long and hard she had looked for me. She turned to my parents and yelled at them about how horrible they were for robbing her of her motherhood so soon after her husband's death. Her anger soon turned into fear when they shouted back that her husband had never died. That's just what she wanted people to think. When the cops asked what they meant, they told them to check out the second bedroom in the back, my uncle's bedroom. My birth mother tried to run away, but the cops stopped her. Apparently, my sick uncle had actually been my father all along. After he asked my birth mother for divorce papers, she staged his death. But my kidnappers had actually saved him and had hired people to care for him for years. They decided on the last move that we should all move in to take care of him and that they would explain everything about my past when I was old enough. Your father was a great man, our best friend, they said. Despite whether or not they did the right thing, my parents were arrested for kidnapping on the spot. Because of the discovery of my birth father, who was reported dead, my birth mother was brought in for questioning and later charged with attempted murder. When the cops asked if I had anywhere I could go, I decided to give Susan a call. She was so happy to see me. So much had changed, but we were able to go back to our friendship as though it was normal. We are currently working on an indie documentary about my life and are both in film school together. I still visit my parents in prison from time to time, and my birth father in the hospital, but he's not getting any better. I've seen my birth mother a couple of times since everything happened, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to have a relationship with her.